Okay, I'm definitely going to try mindfulness.
Good.
What else can I do?
Think about the things you do that make you feel good.
Okay, like...
Taking a walk in nature,
Mm-hmm.
listening to music,
Right.
spending time with people you care about.
Yeah, I love doing all those things.
Me too.
But how do those tie into the placebo effect?
Well, those activities, even though they don't seem related to health,
Right.
they can have a big impact on your mood,
Okay.
your stress levels, even your immune system.
Wow, really?
By making them part of your routine, you build up these positive associations and habits that boost your well-being.
So it's like I'm creating my own personal placebo effect.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's about taking a more holistic approach to health.
Yeah.
You know, realizing that our minds and bodies are always talking to each other.
They are.
And that we can actually influence that conversation.
Right. You're not just a passive recipient of healthcare. You're an active participant in your own healing.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
This is really inspiring.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about individual stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what about, like, as a society?
Yeah.
How can understanding this placebo effect change how we think about healthcare in general?
I think it comes down to needing a more patient-centered approach.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means recognizing that every patient is unique. They have their own beliefs, experiences, expectations.
Right.
We need to move away from this one-size-fits-all approach to medicine.
So no more cookie-cutter healthcare.
Exactly. Doctors really need to listen to their patients, understand their concerns, and come up with treatments that fit their individual needs.
So putting the patient at the center of their own healthcare journey.
Exactly. And this brings us back to that doctor-patient relationship. When you have a strong, trusting relationship there, the placebo effect can be even stronger.
So that hope and optimism a patient feels, that can actually help them heal.
It can.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it needs to go beyond just individuals, right?
Yeah, for sure.
How can we make healthcare as a whole more focused on the patient?
Well, maybe it involves integrating those complementary and alternative therapies into conventional medicine.
Okay.
Maybe more research on personalized treatments based on how someone responds to placebos.
Interesting.
And definitely educating healthcare providers and the public about the power of the placebo effect and how to use it ethically.
It sounds like a total change in how we think about things.
It is.
We need to stop seeing the placebo effect as this weird thing or a weakness.
Yeah.
And start seeing it as a tool to help people get better.
Absolutely.
Are we starting to see that happen?
I think we are. There's more awareness about integrative medicine these days. Treating the whole person, not just the symptoms.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap up this section,
Yeah.
let's go back to the ethical concerns.
Right.
You mentioned there are some issues with using placebos even when you're open about it.
Yeah, one big concern is deception.
Right.
Even if the patient knows they're getting a placebo, some people might not get what that means, or they might feel tricked.
So you have to be absolutely sure they understand what's going on.
Yeah, they need to give informed consent.
Yeah.
They can't be pressured into it.
Right, but even then, are there still gray areas?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like what?
Well, some people say that even open-label placebos are kind of taking advantage of that trust between the doctor and patient.
Okay.
If a patient believes their doctor's given them something that'll help, they're more likely to have that placebo effect, even if they know it's just a sugar pill.
So it's like there's this power dynamic between doctors and patients.
Right.
And using placebos, even if you're being transparent, could be seen as exploitive.
Yeah, that's why those open and honest conversations about the placebo effect are so important.
Right.
You got to explain how it works.
Yeah.
Make sure the patient knows they can say no to any treatment, even a placebo.
Right.
It should always be their choice.
So the key is communication and making decisions together.
Absolutely. That way you make sure you're using this powerful placebo effect responsibly and ethically.
This has been so interesting.
It has.
This whole deep dive into the placebo effect.
Yeah.
We've gone from the science of it to how our beliefs and expectations play a role, to how we can use this in our lives.
That's fascinating.
It's clear that the placebo effect is more than just a weird phenomenon.
It is.
It's a part of being human.
Yeah.
And it affects how we think about health and healing.
Absolutely.
I feel like I've learned so much about how our minds can impact our health.
Me too. And as research continues, we're going to discover even more ways to use this power to make people's lives better.
It's amazing how connected our minds and bodies are.
It is.
And how understanding that can help us heal.
For sure.
But before we get too carried away,
Yeah.
we do need to remember the challenges the placebo effect creates for research.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah, so let's talk more about that.
Sure.
How do researchers deal with this whole placebo effect thing in their studies?
Yeah, it's a big challenge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how can we be sure that a new treatment is actually working?
Right.
And it's not just the placebo effect making people feel better.
It seems like it could really mess things up when scientists are trying to figure out if a new drug or therapy is actually effective.
Absolutely. It definitely complicates things.
Yeah.
Researchers have to be very careful to tease apart the real effects of the treatment from the influence of the placebo effect.
So how do they do that? How do they make sure they're seeing what the medication actually does?
Well, one of the most important things they do is use control groups in clinical trials.
Okay, so like one group gets the real treatment.
Yes.
And the other group gets a placebo.
Exactly. And it can't just be any placebo.
What do you mean?
It has to be as similar to the real treatment as possible.
Oh, okay.
It needs to look the same, taste the same, be given the same way.
So basically, they're trying to make the whole experience the same for both groups.
Right.
Except for whether or not they're actually getting the active ingredient.
Exactly. And if the group getting the real treatment shows a lot more improvement than the placebo group, then researchers can be more confident that the treatment itself is actually working.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But you said earlier that the placebo response can be kind of unpredictable.
Oh, yeah.
It varies from person to person.
It does.
And even from condition to condition.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make things even harder for the researchers?
It definitely does. Certain conditions just seem to be more susceptible to the placebo effect than others.
Okay, like what?
Well, for example, conditions that have a strong subjective component, like pain or depression.
Right.
Those tend to have larger placebo responses.
Because pain is so personal, right?
Yeah.
It's influenced by how we perceive it and what we believe about it.
Exactly. So researchers have to be extra careful when they're designing trials for those kinds of conditions.
It sounds like this whole idea of the placebo effect has really changed how we think about medical research.
Oh, it absolutely has.
Yeah.
It really highlights the power of the mind and how it can influence our physical experiences.
Right. And it shows how important it is to have well-designed studies that can account for this powerful phenomenon.
Absolutely.
Wow, this whole deep dive has been amazing.
It has.
We've learned so much about the placebo effect, from the neuroscience behind it to the psychology of how our beliefs and expectations work.
It's fascinating stuff.
And we even got into practical ways we can use this knowledge to improve our lives.
Yeah, it's all about that mind-body connection.
Exactly. It's clear that the placebo effect isn't just some weird sideshow.
No.
It's a fundamental part of the human experience.
Absolutely.
It really affects how we approach health and healing.
Couldn't agree more.
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of how powerful our minds can be when it comes to our health.
Me too. And the best part is there's still so much more to learn.
Right.
As research continues, we're going to keep uncovering new ways to use this incredible phenomenon to make a real difference in people's lives.
And while the placebo effect can definitely throw a wrench into research,
oh, for sure,
it also offers incredible potential for improving patient care.
Absolutely.
And ultimately leading to better health outcomes for everyone.
I think that's a great note to end on.
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the placebo effect. It's been a pleasure exploring this fascinating topic with you.
And to all our listeners out there, we hope you enjoyed the journey as much as we did.
Keep those minds curious and keep exploring the wonders of your own mind-body connection.